Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here today with Chris Rains, People, Solutions, and Mobility at the Trade Desk. What's up, Chris? How you doing?
Ben, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you on, man. We connected in Los Angeles not too long ago, and I was like, "Where's this guy been all my career?" I was like, "This guy's awesome."
I've just been a fan watching from afar.
No, dude, it's awesome having you on. I was like, this person is so smart and insightful. They're funny, just like me. I'm like, I need this person on the pod right away, ASAP. Get in the comments, y'all. Hit that like button. Let us know who you are, where you are. Speaking of fun, insightful people, Christian Terneden says, I do miss the German food from my childhood, but I won't miss the show with Chris Rains. What's up? What's up, Christian? Another Chris. There's a lot of Chris's out there. You ever feel like that sometimes?
There are, yeah. It's funny. I didn't realize until I think I was in my teens just how many Chris's there are out there, and let's just say there's a lot of conversations where I don't know if people are talking to me or somebody else. So
Is it strictly last names? You ever get tripped up on the last names too?
yeah, growing up it was Rainsy. Everybody called me Rainsy, so that was easy. Not too many Rainses out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you ever go to like other countries and like they struggle with like how to pronounce like what we would consider to be a simple name?
Yeah, well, you talked about Germany. I used to play hockey in Germany, and every game that they would introduce me, it would be Rhinus. So that was fun. And then I was actually in Singapore
Nice.
last week. Anybody who's following me on LinkedIn probably saw the updates. And every morning that I got my wake up call, it was "Good morning, Mr. Rainies." So yeah, just a slew of cultural challenges with the last name Raines.
I need to understand this hockey in Germany. You just casually dropped. I used to play hockey in Germany. What was
Yeah.
that about?
I was a big hockey player before I found my way into the mobility space. I played for 25 years. And yeah, when I was 13, I moved with my parents to Germany and played hockey for a couple of years. Spent a short time doing a European hockey career before I found my way back to the States and found my way into this crazy world of mobility that we
Did
live
you
in.
play professionally over there?
Yep.
This is way more interesting than mobility. Okay, can we just forget who needs policies? All right, we got
Yeah.
real hockey players here. What?
Love
Get in the
Relo and
comments,
hockey. I
y'all.
love it.
Yeah, get in the comments, y'all. Let us know if you're a hockey fan. I'm a casual. I grew up as a New York Rangers fan, growing up in New York, and that was the mid '90s. So you got Messier and Adam Graves and Mike Richter, and then all of a sudden we got Wayne Gretzky and Brian Leach, and we got all these guys, right? So tell me about your hockey career. What was that like playing professional hockey?
It was a blast. Europe was obviously a completely different animal. I grew up outside of Toronto, so I grew up a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. So I respect the big city hockey game. So New York Rangers definitely see it and
The
appreciate it.
Leafs are enormous in Toronto too.
I mean, they're enormous everywhere. It's the hockey capital of the world. So started in
Maybe the
Toronto.
only professional team more disappointing than the Dallas Cowboys too. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, you're tugging at some heartstrings right now. I
I'm
think,
sorry, buddy. Hey,
yeah,
I
if
get
I
a lot of
drop off
press.
the call, you know why. Um, no, honestly, it's one of those things. I don't take the team too seriously because I've had my heart broken a few too many times by them.
Hmm.
But when they're doing well, it's fun. When they're not doing well, what's hockey? We don't focus on it.
Yeah,
Um,
but what was that like playing professionally though? I'm really curious. I mean, that's like the dream, right? It's like up there with podcast hosts. So like,
yeah,
what is that like?
no, yeah, I think it's second only to podcast host. It was great. Obviously, it really highlighted for me that there's finite time. There was very much so a clock on it. And I started seeing that clock in my teenage years and the wear that it was, giving my body, my teeth, my scars, everything you can see in the screen
Do you have
is
like, did you
thanks to
have to get a
hockey.
lot of teeth replaced?
Nothing replaced, but definitely some chips.
Yeah.
Definitely some chips on the teeth. I was big in the mouth guard space, so I would
Was
always.
that was that like was that unique? Was there a lot of like purists out there like, "Ah, I don't need a mouth guard?"
Yeah. In the hockey world, we call them chirps, right? So like if
Sure.
somebody's giving you some feedback on
Yeah.
something, it's a chirp. So obviously very different than the professional world. But yeah, I would get chirped from my mouth guard all the time, and at least I still have all my original teeth, which I think that's
And those
the
guys are like whistling through their front two teeth at you, like, "Hey,
yeah.
nice mouth guard, eh?"
I have the friends where they're the stereotypical hockey player where, we go out and we hang out, we have dinner, and they're taking their teeth in and out.
Oh my gosh, more hair than teeth. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get in the comments, y'all. Let us know who you are, where you are, if you have all your original teeth, if you played hockey. Get in there. Let us know. Did this experience playing hockey professionally abroad, moving abroad, I mean, did that like give you a taste for mobility?
Yeah, 100%. So my parents were just career expats, right? Like that's the childhood I was raised in. So that was my first exposure to the mobility world, but it very much so was your traditional 90s international assignment where, you're being sold to go on assignment. You're not asking to go on assignment. So the packages were great. I didn't really have a realistic lens on what was probably real life for most of my childhood. Very much so a guarded international school expat childhood. Now, hockey really brought me back to earth because I wasn't playing with other expats. I was playing with mostly the locals. Uh, for the most part, there were obviously a couple of people from Russia or Eastern Europe occasionally thrown in. And it really was grounding to experience that and to see, you know, what their diets looked like, what their school lives looked like. That was great. When I was in Germany and then subsequently in Switzerland and Belgium, just the movement between markets, right? I don't know if you know this, but like there's almost zero support for relocation, for immigration. You're really left to figure it out on your own. So I think that was really the juxtaposition for me of what structured support looks like versus just figure it out. So that turned into curiosity, and about 20 years ago, that turned into what's been a pretty amazing ride in this career of mine.
I want to get to that transition, but you just brought something up about kind of comparing and juxtaposing, right? Where, the European market with the U.S. market when it comes to mobility. Are you saying that you feel like there's more structure in the U.S. or it's more kind of a part of the culture here than in the European market, or how would you compare that?
Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily say it has anything to do with location. Location, I think, plays into the nuance. It was really, the experience that my parents had as expats and that I try to give my employees in a corporate setting versus the sports world. In the sports world, there's almost no,
Ah,
you get traded, your contract ends, and you've got to find another team. There's almost no support. It was me figuring out the tax, me figuring out the immigration, me figuring out how to get from A to B. In Europe, it was pretty easy. I think we've heard about how difficult it can be in the last year in many countries, including the US. But in Europe, it was actually pretty easy. I didn't need to pay somebody to help me, but I know that there's definitely people that are struggling because they are left to figure it out on their own. And this has been a part of collective bargaining agreements. Sports players agents are pushing for more structured support. It's been really interesting to watch. Definitely an opportunity for those of you out there who are in that space and are looking for more opportunity. The sports world is ever changing. In Los Angeles, we're experiencing with the World Cup and the Olympics coming to town as well.
yeah, that's so interesting. You talk about sports, and I do know some folks in relocation that specialize in helping sports teams or sports figures. I know the car shipper that we've had on the show before who got their start shipping cars for baseball players. You're going to spring training, coming back. I know realtors, especially when I was in Detroit, who specialize in buying and selling houses for athletes. It's super specialized, but it's not corporately paid for, to your point, I think, right? And so you have these like high net worth lump sum or not even like just COD kind of people out there floating around, selling, $1.5 million houses and moving Ferraris and just Googling it like everybody else.
Yeah, and quite honestly, I know people who are just picking up the phone and calling that first or second listing on Google. Which, I mean, talk about SEO optimization. That's the value of SEO right there.
Yeah, it's kind of nutty. And actually it's it's funny. I actually have a hockey story for you, a hockey
Yeah, please.
relocation story. Okay.
I'm here
So
for
when
it.
I was in Detroit, my last job, this was 6 years ago now. There was a player called I'm gonna get the name wrong. He's Swedish. Henrik Zetterberg, maybe.
Yeah,
Does that
yeah,
sound
Henrik,
about right?
Henrik
Henrik.
Zetterberg.
So I never know what to do with the first part of the name, but
Yeah,
Zetterberg, right? Dude Zetterberg, right? Everybody knows Zetterberg. I just say Zetterberg. Anyway, and so the company I work for, the moving company I work for, we were we were basically like the unofficial mover for all of the Swedish Red Wings players. So what I learned was that these kids come over from these countries, and there's these hockey producing countries, right? I mean, obviously you
yeah,
have Canada, but you have like Russia, you have like Sweden, you have like Finland, you have, these countries that produce hockey players that the US has in the NHL.
yeah.
And
You got most of the countries right. Yeah, those are the big ones.
yeah, yeah, I'm trying over here. And so when they come over with like a duffel bag and some hopes and dreams and like maybe a PlayStation or something. I don't
Yeah,
know. And they live in like a studio or a one bedroom or whatever, and they're just trying to, like, they hope they make the team, they hope they stay on, whatever. And they're kind of taken under the wing, depending on what country they're from. So in this case, it was from Sweden, and they're taken under the wing by the senior most player from that country on that team's like wife, right? So then you have like the wife is like the den mother for
yeah,
all the players, right? And then their wives and girlfriends, right? And they kind of handle like all of this support kind of related stuff, and like where do we go get this? Where do we go get that? And like they're kind of like almost like the unofficial DSP for the team, basically, right? And then so we became passed down generationally as the Swedish players go-to moving company, right?
yeah.
Which is great, right? I never figured out how to break into the Russians or the Finns, but we were happy with our position as the Swedish team. So anyway, so you have Zetterberg, who's like this Hall of Fame hockey player, and now it's time for him to retire. So he came over with, a duffel bag and a dream, and he's leaving like the king of Sweden with like 3 containers full of stuff. He's got jet skis, he's got Ferraris, he's got artwork, he's got all the toys, right? And he's bringing it all back to Sweden, a lot of which you couldn't even get over there. I guess they don't do a lot of jet skiing typically in Stockholm or what have you. Anyway, it's a short season. So he's bringing all this back, and I got a kid on my team who goes out to cube this house out to do a walkthrough, do a survey of this home, and he's like pissing his pants because he's like a big time hockey fan from Detroit, and he's like, I'm in freaking Zetterberg's house. He's like 23 years old. He's tripping, right? And he calls me up. I'm like, just keep your cool, bro. Just work the problem. I know you're gonna be there all day, but just work the problem. You got this.
Act like
And
you've been there before,
act
right?
like you've been there, bro. We do this. We're the Swedish hockey playing,
Right.
preferred mover. Okay, buddy.
This is just a Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, so he works up this quote, and it's like 80 grand,
Yeah.
120. It was a lot of grand. It was a whole lot of money, right?
Not one sea container. This is
No, it
probably
was
a
yeah, it
couple.
was 3 containers, 40-foot containers, right? Because you put the cars in there.
Yeah.
So we get our forwarders to do it, whatever. But we do the origin work. We pack and load, block and brace this container. So because we're always trying to achieve density in these containers, no wasted space, etc. So we put the Ferrari in. Well, there's a whole lot of wasted space on top of the Ferrari, right?
Right.
So we said, well, what's going to fit there? You know what would fit there nice? Those jet skis will fit there nice. So we build this decking with these kind of cradles, custom woodwork. It was beautiful, right? And so we put these jet skis on top of the Ferrari, and we ship it, right? Send it. The manager, Zetterberg's manager, calls up my guy Angelo. Hey, what's up, Ange? Calls up Angelo, and he's like, "Hey, we got a problem." You can guess probably what happened. Yeah, one of these jet skis fell out of the cradling and landed on top of the Ferrari and rode like that for some undetermined amount of time, and
Yeah.
got there, and it was all jacked up, right? He's like, "Angelo, we got a problem." Angelo calls me. He's like, "Ben, we got a problem." I call the forwarder. I'm like, "Hey, we got a problem." And we had to like get this Ferrari repainted, and it was wild, but I mean, we ultimately took care of it. The insurance kicked in, we expedited it, of course, but
I'm sure the
um,
insurance company was stoked to hear that claim.
yeah, Ferrari paint jobs aren't like going to Mako $199. Like, it's
No.
7 coats of paint.
Yeah.
Anyway, we
It's a
fixed
pretty
it.
penny. Yeah. I don't own a Ferrari by any means. I don't know if you can tell
No,
by
you
the
didn't
background that I
even
don't own
used or
one.
anything.
But yeah, I know they're not cheap.
Yeah, it was wild. So I don't know if they're still the official movers of the Swedish hockey players, but that was a lot of fun. But yeah, it just made me. I mean, that was my first exposure really to like moving an athlete firsthand.
And what's funny when you mention that, like I'm sure he was paying for it. I'm sure it was all
Yeah,
COD. Nobody else was subsidizing that. And obviously, I fit more into the bucket of I had my PlayStation. It was
that wasn't your experience moving.
I had a PlayStation. It was a PlayStation 2. So for anybody who's keeping track of years, that kind of gives you
Yes.
an idea of when that was.
Yep.
I had a 32-inch TV that I left behind because it was a different converter, so I didn't bring it to the States. And basically, what's the equivalent of a duffel bag? So that was my moving experience. And let's just say that I just paid for the extra bag and I moved myself via airplane.
Did you just you just checked some extra luggage, right? And didn't even bother.
100%. It was way cheaper for me in my experience than trying to talk about an air or a sea shipment from Germany to the US.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now when people come to you and they're like, "Hey, I need this sea container with a, unaccompanied baggage. I need all this approved." You're just like, "Listen, I did it. This is how I did it. Get an extra bag, make it empty. You'd be fine, and fill it up."
Let's just say that's the voice that's going on in the back of my head. But
It's internal
no,
monologue.
we certainly take that conversation a little bit further than, hey, in my days, this is what we did. Yeah, I try to leave that for conversations like this and not necessarily for my example.
Yeah. So what do you think about moving household goods internationally? Because there's been a big like I don't want to say change in this, but I don't know. It seems a little bit more negotiable from a policy standpoint.
Yeah, I'm 100% it is. I've run standard mobility programs and I've run, nouveau mobility programs, these like
Nouveau.
new age, these
Yeah.
these, mobility programs of the future. Where we're really trying to think about things more proactively. What's truly the benefit for the employee and where can we do that at the low, where's the best ROI? And household goods in some moves, yeah, there is that strong ROI. That's what's going to get it done for that individual. But there's been a lot of conversations I have with folks where it's, hey, we're going to negotiate. We're going to take away your air shipment. We're just going to give you a C. We'll extend temp housing. We'll take away your shipment altogether, and we'll give you extra bags and a furniture allowance. We truly are leaning into that flexibility for the individual scenario because, like you said, you could have two hockey players, two completely different lifestyles, where one's shipping 3 sea containers, including a Ferrari and Sea-Doos, and then the other one's traveling with a duffel bag and a PS2. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
totally.
really isn't one size fits
So,
all.
so is it everyone like kind of a I don't say negotiation, but bespoke, or is there like a standard policy everyone gets X?
Yeah, not speaking about my current role, but generally the way that I look at programs is there does need to be some flexibility because all relocations are different. No two are created the same. And at the end of the day, if we're budgeting 20K, 30K, 40K for a move, we're going to make sure that the employee, the candidate's getting the best bang for their buck. So
Mhm.
we certainly do that. We certainly make sure that we're still working within the guardrails of what we've created from a policy perspective. We're hyper aware of the exceptions that we're making. We track that diligently. But also, if at the end of the day, a furniture allowance is going to move the needle more for them than a household goods shipment, that's a conversation we absolutely will have.
But what about like people that say, well, the candidates always want the money, like they always if given the cash option, there's give me the cash. Do you
Yeah.
see that or no? Do you think that?
I do think the candidates always want cash, but I also think the candidates don't always know what's best for them. So when I say that we're giving them flexibility, it's never cash. I'm not a fan of giving cash. I think at the end of the day, you give somebody cash, you give me cash. I'm not spending it smartly. I'm not spending it on your
Yeah,
relocation.
I'm not a good steward of company funds, okay? And I'm the
Yeah.
CEO, so I
Right.
can't expect you. Yeah,
Yeah. All of a sudden it's like, hey, I've got 5 grand, 10 grand, whatever it is.
yeah.
I'm gonna buy that smoker barbecue that I've been looking at for the last 2 years. I'm gonna
Hello
upgrade my
Traeger,
TV.
hello Green Egg, XL
Yeah.
Green Egg. Yeah.
Exactly. This is just a brand plug for all of our favorite brands, isn't it? Um, but yeah, so no, it becomes more of a managed lump sum with guardrails. So I'm not a fan of doing straight managed lump sums. But what I like to do is I like to give guardrails. I like to put together those relationships with the vendors so that we can truly push business in the direction where we know our folks are being taken care of, but we're also giving them budgetary guardrails. So when I talk about a furniture allowance, it's not just $5,000, $10,000. It's, hey, you're going to submit expenses in line with these eligible items up to a cap. So that's really how I like to manage it. And I really lean on my vendors to help us manage that diligently, so that it's not just, my team doing additional administrative work, and it's not somebody, going through our expense management team, through SAP Concur or a
Right.
system like that.
What becomes of the responsibility of the relocation management company when policies get so flexible that they're almost like a negotiation or a bespoke, situation every time?
Yeah. Well, I I look at my program as my team, and you may have heard me say this in one of our meetings, or you know, people may have heard me say this in any of the platforms that I'm given. I'm really a big believer that the in-house global mobility program is shifting. It's no longer this behind the scenes. We're a ticket taker, a visa desk, a reload desk. We're truly ingrained in the workforce strategy. We're truly pushing how to get the right talent, how to challenge where that talent's being hired, and how to make it happen quickly. So in order for us to do that, we're probably not getting additional headcount. We're trying to upskill the level of work that we're doing and the level of strategy that we're viewed at by the business. We need to leverage our partners for some of these transactional and some of these logistic things that some in-house programs have owned historically. So when I work with my vendors and my partners, that's truly the lens that I look at it with.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to own this part of it. I need you to be an extension of my team. And I need you to make decisions with discretion that are going to be aligned with the decisions that I'll make. You've already learned this. I talk. So if you listen, you'll know what it is that I want. So
Mm-hmm.
that's worked really well with our existing relationships. And what I would highlight is by the time that offer is negotiated with a candidate, and this isn't all candidates, right? For the most part, interns are interns. We treat those for the most part pretty similarly. That's its own tranche. Executives are executives. They have a different level of support. We've already negotiated what is being offered, and when we're authorizing that with our vendors, they have an idea of like what's being delivered against, and then we're just really managing towards that. Then it really becomes a conversation about exceptions, and I'm not allergic to exceptions. I
Yeah,
recognize
some
that.
people hate them. It's like the number one dissatisfier from what I hear from
Yeah,
corporate's perspective. So what's your philosophy on that?
I think exceptions are, that's the individual's personal situation coming into play, and you have to be receptive to that. And if it's a reasonable exception, I'm fine approving that, and I'm fine reviewing the program on an annual basis to see how many like exceptions have we approved. If it's unreasonable, which let's be real, we've all dealt with the unreasonable exception requests, it's either a no or it's a how high up is this going to get escalated? And am I going to be viewed as a blocker if I continually say no and somebody up the chain is going to end up approving it?
Well,
I
that
try
can
to
be a
use
tough
happy
dance
ending.
too, right? Like you don't want to be a blocker, but you also don't want to. You have to, be a good fiduciary, right? Too, and it's like
Act like an
there's,
owner. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, and that's where like you can identify culture fits. And if you have an act like an owner culture, and you consistently see new hires that you're bringing on board that don't act like owners, that
mm-hmm.
are they're abusing the purse. Those are call outs, right? That's where we as strategic partners talk to our talent acquisition teams. We talk to our business leaders and we just say, hey, we're seeing some behaviors that aren't congruent with what we think is a successful hire. Are you seeing these? Keep an eye out. And we're certainly not being narcs, but we are being protective of the business, right? At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're hiring the right people. And I think the global mobility or relocation teams are in a unique position because we see a different side of people than maybe the TA team or maybe the business team. So we do see how these individuals are treating our vendors and how they're treating potentially, in some instances, our clients. Um, so those are really good opportunities for us to flag potential concerns.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting point that you make, and we talk about that all the time on the supplier side as well. It's like we see how they like. So I come from the house with good side, right?
Yeah.
So we're the movers, and sometimes I'll go on site, do a quality check. I got my little clipboard, and I got my pen and pencil. I'm very old school kind of. So I go out there and I'm checking my boxes, and was a crew professional, whatever. Did they use home protection, whatever? And sometimes you see the way people live, and you're like, oh, this place is a pigsty, or this place is whatever, or the transferee is super sweet and super nice and accommodating, and like, oh, here's a restroom, here's a pizza, and sometimes like, oh, you can't use my bathroom, and you're just like, wow, and because these are people, they don't need to treat nicely. It's like this is optional, kind of how you treat your movers. It's like nobody's gonna know. You're never gonna see these people again. They're you could look at them as though they're down here, to you, whatever. And so you really get to observe people in a super stressful moment in their life, dealing with people that they could easily rationalize as beneath them. And it's like, how does this person treat these people who are in their home doing really hard work for them?
Yeah.
And sometimes I wanted to call, like, and we talk to the RMC, so we don't often talk to the corporation, but you want to call and be like, hey, this guy's kind of a jerk. Like, you sure you want to bring this one on, or
Yeah.
or so and so is so sweet. We still talk 5 years later,
You're on the holiday card list. You're on the birthday
Yeah.
card list. Yeah, and I think it's huge. And my philosophy for the last few years has really been, I lean on the RMC, but I also want direct relationships with my third-party vendors. Anybody who's interacting with my employees, I want that relationship. I want to hear the
Yeah.
feedback. Is this person, do they have two different faces? One face that they bring to work and another face that they use day to day.
And by the way, that day-to-day phase starts to come out more and more at work once they get comfortable, right?
Right.
Once they're like, oh, I'm good here, and then they start treating, and now it's not, I don't treat the movers this way, now I treat the interns this way, or now I treat the juniors this way, or now I treat my laterals this way, I treat my vendors this way,
Yeah.
And so I think that's so on point. Gabby checking in. What's up, Gabby? Good to see you. Having vendors really own part of this complex process is so important. Ownership throughout the program ecosystem is key.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Thanks, Gabby.
Yeah, so the ownership idea, I mean, not just you acting like an owner, but does that kind of extend to the vendors too? Like,
Yeah, obviously two different sides of the equation, right? I mean, most of the roles that I'm working in have a RSU component, so you truly are an owner, right? Like your work contributes, hopefully, to the final payday. Act like an investor, not just an owner. Now, when it comes to the vendors, the way I look at it is that's a relationship that if it's working well, that could pay dividends, right? And we see this all the time. A company that's 500 employees turns into a company that's 50,000 employees.
wow.
Doesn't happen every time, but it happens. And you better believe that the vendors that are treating those companies, those employees right, they stick around. They stay a part of the process through the growth. The ones that don't, the ones that at the end of the day, it's transactional, you're not a partner, you're just a vendor. Let's just say that those are a little easier to replace as you do meet those different growth thresholds. As your priorities as an organization shift, there's less tolerance for the vendors not to shift with you. So that's been something that I've experienced in the last few roles, where I do think that there's great people in our industry, but if you are not differentiating and acting like a partner, it's not going to be reciprocated when the growth and the success happens.
I always, as a supplier, wanted to be brought in to have more consultative type of a relationship, because from my seat, we were always getting orders, or we saw changes happening, and we're like, they would just do this, they could save some money. Or if they would just do this, they could get better outcomes. Or if they would just do this, we could shave some days off of the process, whatever, right? And I rarely, I'll say rarely, I don't say never, but I rarely felt like I was invited to the table to have like a real meeting of the minds, a real collaborative session. That was one of the things I always, I'm kind of out of that space now, but I don't know. I kind of, one of my regrets maybe,
Yeah.
in that chair.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned it, because like there's some companies where like they don't want that relationship. They don't want to hear
Yeah.
the feedback. I recognize that I don't have all the answers, right? I've seen some things, but I also recognize other people have seen some things. And if we want to grow and we want to do things better, we've got to learn from each other. And I have been out of the day-to-day household goods space for more than a decade. I'm not going to pretend to know what's happening in the logistics space of mobility. I'm going to lean on my vendors. I'm going to lean on my partners to do that. I'm going to have those relationships. When somebody invites me to do a port tour, when somebody invites me to look at the latest, corrugated carton, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to learn from it, because those are the learning opportunities that don't come along frequently enough. So
Chris, you know you're about to get a whole bunch of cardboard boxes in the mail. Like, hey, check out our corrugated. Yeah, check out
Hey,
this.
I want to. Those will be good for the next move. Home Depot and Ace are killing me with the
We're
cost
gonna nerd out on some corrugated
box.
over here.
Yeah,
Edge crush testing metrics.
please,
Yeah,
please.
at some points, like I wonder, is there too much innovation or too much pressure to innovate in certain areas where you're like, okay, you know, are we getting any return? Are we innovating to innovate? Are we just trying to fill out RFPs and win some awards here around innovation? I mean, is this really necessary? I remember one time, and I won't name the RMC, but I remember when I came on board as a supplier there, um, as a household goods supplier, it was like so onerous. There were so many pages, right? And so we finally get on board, and then like, oh, and by the way, you need to put these shock watch stickers on the cartons.
Jeez.
You ever heard of these shock watch stickers, Chris?
Yep.
Yeah. They're like these, they're like hexagons or octagons, whatever, and you like stick them on, like, I think 5 cartons had to have these on them per shipment. And they had this like little red dial, almost like a thermometer, like mercury or something. And if you drop, the idea was that if you drop this box, or it experienced some sort of shock in transit, a certain amount of G's or whatever, then the thing would break and it would turn red, and it would, like, you would know, oh, there's damage in transit or something like that. And I'm like, okay, the logistics of getting these on every shipment that we do for y'all, when we're about to do 100, 200 of these things all around the world, all around the US, is one thing. B, the cost of these stickers. I mean, I'm a dad. I buy a lot of stickers, but these are by far the most costly stickers I've ever seen in my life. Okay. And so we did that. And then when I get on the website, I'm ordering these shock watches. They have other ones like temperature, if the temperature ever drops, if it ever gets tilted more than this, like all this stuff. And I'm like, at some point, guys, we're loading used furniture here. I think we need to just kind of focus on the task at hand. I don't know, Chris. Maybe I'm just being a curmudgeon. What do you think about all this?
I think it all comes down to ROI, right? And I think, we've clearly established the cost of the shock watch stickers. And I'm a dad too. And I'm all about the free stickers. And let's just say those are not free. Those are very
Yeah.
expensive. And I think there's a real ROI conversation there. Now, some companies might say, I need to know, because at the end of the day, that's impactful, and we're going to want to see a lower incident rate. And some companies might just say, I don't care. Claims rate's fine. If there's claims, I want to know. If there's no claims, great.
Yeah, if there's claims, you pay it. How about that?
Exactly. There's a cost there that's being paid, not just to throw stickers. My daughter can throw stickers on boxes.
Yeah.
Nothing against Shockwatch, but
Yeah, great company, fine company. I'll tell you this, I'm pretty sure they don't do that anymore. I'm pretty sure it's not in the agreement anymore.
It's been a minute since I've heard the name Shockwatch, and I think there's been a reason there.
Good. That's innovation right there.
Yeah. Now, what I will say is I do think there's things that are worth automating. I do think there's things that are worth innovating. Don't innovate for innovation's sake. We're all too busy for that, right? I think what it needs to be is, where's the ROI and how can you innovate towards that? I'm a huge fan of innovation because it allows you to deliver a product. For those of you out there, MVP, minimal viable product, or different iterations of that phrase, it allows you to deliver something that is not the final solution. It gets something in front of your customers, your stakeholders, and it allows you to continue to iterate. Because let's be real, in a year, a lot can change. And that first product that gets there and helps you automate, be more efficient, that can be a nice win. And the way that that looks a year from now, you might not even have the indicators to tell you what needs to be iterated on. So as long as you deliver something and you continue to review for iteration opportunities, I think that's half the battle right there.
Yeah,
Now, we have a lot of processes where we do that. We have a lot of things in our program where it's deliver, review, evaluate, and then continue to iterate.
I would love to see on these award, applications, right? Instead of the question being phrased, like, what have you started doing that was innovative? What have you stopped doing? Tell me what you stopped doing, right? Because if we just keep adding processes, right, at some point we have all this process infrastructure going on, right? And everything, like, now we really need automation because we've over engineered the heck out of this thing. Tell me what you stopped doing. Like, there's all these stories of like these historical, this lore out there of like, oh yeah, get this report going. Oh yeah, get this report going. Oh yeah, get this report going. And the person does the report for a year, and then the boss, is like, what's this report? Oh, remember you asked me to do that in February. You start reporting on this every week. It turns out they have not been reading it since March.
Yeah.
But they're still producing the report, right? And I think there's so much process that starts to build up and things that we start to do, and it's like, how do we eliminate process?
Yeah. And I don't think it's eliminating process. I think it's being intentional about what processes you prioritize.
Mm.
And, I don't know, while you're saying that, I'm thinking of TPS reports.
Yeah, you're thinking of all the TPS reports you're probably producing and or getting sent to you that you don't open.
Right.
Continue.
For full transparency, I've never once worked on a TPS report. I don't think I could even tell you what a TPS
I
report
don't know what a
is.
TPS is either.
I just remember it from the movie Office Space. So for anybody watching or listening
I
who,
need you to come in on Saturday, and I think I'm gonna need you to come in on Sunday too.
yeah,
Lumberg.
for anybody who's listening or watching, if you haven't seen Office Space, you've got homework. Definitely prioritize that. I think that's a timeless comedy.
Timeless.
But with that said, I think playbooks had a moment, and I'm all for a good playbook, but I don't want to create a playbook for every possible scenario. I think it's important that we create something that can apply to a myriad of different situations, and flexibility is key. I think COVID echoed that, and I think everything that we've seen happen from the war in Ukraine to what's happening in the Middle East right now, all of these are examples of, you can create that playbook, or you can amend, or create a flexible playbook that can apply in different situations. So I don't try to over engineer my playbooks. I try to keep my playbooks pretty, versatile. Obviously we had the LA wildfires, so we want to create a playbook that can apply in that situation for our employees, but also be triggered quite quickly to respond when we see incidents in other regions. I work with my safety and security teams to really make sure that we have a team identified that can respond in those moments and actually carry that out. Reports. I definitely love data. Don't get me wrong when I say this, I'm definitely a data guy and a nerd. But when it comes to data, I want to lean on my vendors. I want to trust that the data that they're sending is accurate. I want to aggregate it via a data lake, and I want to use that to influence dashboards. I don't want to be creating reports. I don't want to be creating dashboards. I want those dashboards pre-configured and filterable with all of the data feeding in and available in real time. That's huge for me. I think, if we were to talk about efficiency gains, that's been a huge efficiency gain for us and my team. And then those on-demand reports, they're not on demand anymore. They're, send them to somebody's email, leverage, internal agentic automation, whatever is available to you, so that people are getting those summaries, but it's not me that's sending them. My name might be on it, but it's certainly the.
Don't get me wrong. I'm taking credit. I'm just
Oh,
not.
for sure. Yeah.
What you talk about agentic? We started working on agentic, stuff here, and it's obviously just the topic of every conference I go to. There's some local professor from some college talking about how we need to have Claude do this and that for me.
Yeah.
Love it. But where do you see opportunities, or how are you utilizing agentic AI in the business, and where's that? What's the opportunity there?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I was just at that conference in Singapore where I think you've got half the audience sitting there still trying to figure out what agentic means,
Yeah.
but they know that they should be in that room listening to that conversation, which is good. That's half the battle. I'm an adopter, right? I think that there's a lot of fads out there. I don't think this is one of them. I think this is a meaningful progression in the workforce. I think this is something that's truly going to change how we do work. And as global mobility teams continue to want a seat at the table and continue to want to shift from behind the scenes operator to strategic advisor, I think this is one of the things that allows us to do that. So when we start talking about what's on our plate in a day, right? There's things that you need to do, and there's things that you can potentially automate or delegate. To me, agentic is the best solution to actually leaning into that automation and delegation. So that's where we're leveraging it. We're leveraging it for tier 0 support. We're building agentic models that leverage all of the policies that we've developed, all of the internal resources, all of the different use cases, in creating solutions so that employees, candidates, stakeholders can query against those and get real-time answers. We keep humans in the loop. We continue to review and revise the information that's being shared. But at the end of and we also have a pathway so it can get escalated to our COEs, centers of excellence, so that they can get answers if the agent isn't trained on that specific question. But it really frees us up to focus on the more meaningful work. And what I've identified as the more meaningful work is the relationships with the business, understanding what's important to your business so that you can deliver against those targets, talent strategy, growth goals, new market expansions. So even in the last 4 to 5 years, I think that's really been a huge opportunity for global mobility programs. And I think agentic solutions are just one of the many tools at our disposal to free us up, because we're not getting the additional headcount. We're going to be asked to do more with less. And that is a great tool to be able to do more with less tomorrow.
I love what you're talking about as far as like working on building the relationships with the business, because we work on our consulting side with businesses, and we work on our talent recruitment side with businesses, and especially, well, with both leaders and with the people function of the business. And I am so struck when I talk to an HR leader who just really understands how the business works, understands the strategy, understand what doesn't work, like, and not just from a people standpoint, but from like a strategic standpoint. And there's one in particular I've been working with, the CHRO, and she just blows me away every time I talk to her. I'm like, you are really brilliant. And I shouldn't sound so surprised, but I guess for so long, you know, the the folks I've dealt with were more kind of reactionary, like, well, the business told me to do this, so I'm doing it now, and I'm bringing it to you to get it done. Instead of, the business told me to do this, and to be honest with you, Ben, I'm thinking about this, I don't think they know what they're talking about. And I'm like, I think you're right. I don't think they know what they're talking about. And here's how we can tell them, I don't think this makes a lot of sense. Let's rework this and get better outcomes, and maybe we can actually present a better idea to them and help them run the business better. And I'm
Yeah.
like, now we're talking about like a real strategic partner kind of thing. I just think, I just love seeing that trend.
100%. And I think it's fine to disagree, right? Like at the end of the day, if the business is telling you the outcomes they're trying to drive, and you look at it and you say, okay, I see the outcome you're trying to drive, your pathway to getting there, it doesn't align. 1 + 1 is not equaling 2 in this
You say it a
scenario.
lot better than I say it. I don't know what you're talking about, but I like doesn't align better.
Yeah. Well, hey,
Very
that's
coachable.
why we have these conversations, right?
That's good. Yeah.
Thank you. You're too kind. What but and it's one of those things where like you can respectfully disagree,
Yeah.
right? You can respectfully disagree with the business, where you can say,
Mhm.
hey, I recognize the outcome. I understand why you're doing this. What you're doing, I don't see it aligning to the pathway that you think it is. I don't see you achieving the outcome through that path. And I think the shift in that conversation, somebody told me to do something, so I'm doing it, versus truly understanding the why they're trying to, and what they're trying to achieve, that's been a huge shift. And I've seen it more across people programs and HR programs in the last few years, and I love seeing it. And I think the first thing you can do to start getting to that level tomorrow, if you're not already there, it's start prioritizing relationships. Prioritize that relationship with your head of FP&A, your head of finance, your head of TA. Understand what their goals are so you can understand how you fit into those goals and help them achieve those outcomes. Because not only does it show the outcomes, it creates the partnerships where they're going to remember that you helped them get that outcome, and they're going to come to you the next time. All of a sudden, that Rolodex, your name's going to get reused over and over and over again, which that's the exposure that we're looking for, right?
Yeah, really interesting. Really, really interesting. Um, Chris Lagerman says, it sounds like Chris is familiar with Agile Scrum project management framework. I also think he hits the nail on the head with agentic AI. Is Chris
Yes.
right? Or is Chris
Yeah.
always right? Is that the rule? What's
Yeah. The rule is there's always at least one Chris that's right, and I think
in
Chris.
every conversation you're in,
Yeah,
right? There's
yeah.
always
Well, there's
one
always
Chris.
many Chris's, right? Uh, Chris Lagerman's right. And yes, I do have the background in Agile Scrum project management, and I think that's really core to how I lead things operationally. A lot of those fundamentals come into play because that is truly a lot of how we accomplish what's on our plate. And I think when we look into agentic, generative AI, all of these different tools that are now on our plate, a lot of them feed nicely together. And we can really prioritize what gets done today versus what gets punted to tomorrow and how we move forward with delivering.
Can you explain for those of us who don't know Agile Scrum project management, what all
Yeah.
that is?
So the way that there's a couple of different philosophies based on which project management course you're taking, but generally speaking, what it is it's looking at the outcome you're trying to achieve and how you break that up into chunks that allow you to get to that output. So when I'm leading these, I do things in what's called a sprint, and this is along the lines of Scrum ideology. Um, you can certainly read it from a textbook better than I can explain it, but essentially, it's a 2 week sprint. And that means we're going to accomplish X, Y, and Z in this 2 week sprint. And then we're going to move on to the next sprint. And what's going to end up happening is generally that first sprint is going to unlock what's needed in the second sprint. And then you subsequently continue to do this until you get to your outcome. That's the very simple explanation. Now, if you want to go and get a PMP certification on Agile
I
Scrum,
don't think I do, but I'd
yeah,
like to like know enough to pretend over drinks, maybe.
yeah, there we go. That's your drink overview. So right
That's the
there,
drinks.
that's the after one beer or after one rum and coke.
I think honestly, I think the over drinks framework is really underutilized. It used to be, what's your elevator pitch, and now we're all kind of, working from home or whatever. I just think the over like, can you explain over drinks? Can I get it over drinks when you explain it? That's honestly that's how I did my whole email infrastructure. I got glomo.com, Ben at glomo.com. I was like, I need to tell somebody this at a bar and I need them to be able to remember my email. Okay, so let's keep it tight. All right.
I love that. I had a senior leader tell me recently that like, hey, I don't want any emails from any of my vendors or any of my partners to be longer than 2 sentences. And I was like,
Oh.
okay, that's
So do we
what
need
I'm
to start
hearing is a
dropping the I hope
TLDR.
you're well then? Do we need to start dropping the I hope you're well?
Yeah, all the niceties were gone. Basically, everything ended in let me know if you want to chat. But essentially, it was everything was a TLDR, a too long don't read. It was 2 sentences, and it was basically, hey, you know, you've got this consideration from a tax perspective. You've got this consideration from a immigration perspective. You have to open a bank in this new country. And that was a first for me. I've been doing this for a minute. And I think that was the first time somebody said, hey, I need this in 2 sentences or less. And we did it, but we certainly also told him and his EA that there's a lot of fine print that somebody needs to read because if something does go wrong, there is liability you need to be aware of.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you think we're gonna go to that where like emails are just gonna start reading like text messages?
I think going back to I think a lot of our tools, right? If you're using Outlook, if you're using Gmail, um, you have an AI feature which will essentially summarize the email. I've seen some instances where like the summary is not accurate. I've seen instances where the tone is not accurate. So certainly take that with a grain of salt and use your own discretion when using those tools. But I think there's generations, there's people, there's personality types where they absolutely are not going to read a 5 paragraph email. They're going to use AI. Yeah. And I've got
That's
people on my team that like, and they know it. If they send me a long email and it's a busy day, I'm going to say like, all right, ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever is approved by the company. This is the email. Let me understand what are they asking? Like, what's the main ask? What's the main takeaway? Is there an action? And if there's an action, okay, great. I work on that action. But yeah, there's a lot of people where brevity is not in their writing style, just like it's not in my speaking style.
Well, 100%. And I kind of worry that even though like while AI helps synopsize these beautiful works of email, it also produces really long messages sometimes.
It can.
And like, when I get like when I ask, people to produce something or give me an idea and they run it through chat, and then it's beautifully formatted, right?
It is.
And
They've
every
nailed the
bullet's an
formatting.
emoji, and it's got the line to break it up for me
Yeah.
and everything, and the
50 M
definitive
dashes.
dash. Exactly, exactly. Um, yeah, Caroline says there is no reason for a 5 paragraph email. 1,000%.
I agree.
Yeah,
And it
just
becomes,
call me.
this really becomes the differentiator, right? We've always said, is this an email, a meeting, a phone call? I think this is truly going to help us simplify. Hey, if it's 5 paragraphs, pick up the phone and call me. If
Mm.
it's multiple emails, maybe it's a meeting. I think this is going to be, the intro to simplifying the email versus call versus meeting
I
question.
love that. So what is the break point for phone call?
So I'm not gonna lie. There's summaries that I just am like, hey, I'm gonna put in the input. It could be 10 paragraphs. What's the gist? What's the takeaway? And I will send that to my team. I will send that to my stakeholders. I will send that to my partners. And essentially, if that can't be consolidated into 3 to 5 bullet points, it doesn't belong in an email. Right? Email to me, it's 3 to 5 bullet points. The other thing that belongs in email is if it's something that's completely CYA, and I'm like, hey, you need to understand the risk, and this
Needs to
is
be
going
in
to be
writing.
email. It's
Yes.
in writing, but I always offer a phone call because I do think that what we need is to make sure that the understanding is there. And I find that via email, I don't know if somebody understands what I'm saying or if they're just nodding their head. So I always offer the phone call. In some instances, I strongly encourage the phone call. And then if it's something where we really need to roll up our sleeves and figure something out, or if it's going to involve multiple inputs to come to a decision, that's a meeting. That's a meeting all day long. And there's some meetings that are good meetings. There's some recurring meetings that are really good meetings. So I really lean in and make sure that I make the time for those.
Yeah, that's a whole another discussion that like I would love like an organizational psychologist, professional engineer, whatever, to come in. Like I would love to hear what is the smartest thinking about what's an email, what's a phone call, what's a meeting,
Yeah.
what's a meeting that's a recurring. Like I would love to be educated more formally on this myself
Yeah.
as a
And
lead.
that is certainly not me. I'm just a simple hockey player, as we've already
Oh no,
established.
no, no! You don't understand, Chris. What we do is we come on here and pretend to be experts, and we tell everybody they don't get to talk back to us, and then we just put it on wax and we just leave it there. That's how this works.
I love it.
So
That's why I
yeah,
showed up.
yeah, you'll love it. Yeah, see, Mel thinks you're an expert on Scrum. She's like, oh, sprint to the finish line. I like this. Basically, we call it the Chris Agile method, is what we call it.
I love it.
Yeah,
You can figure
um,
out which Chris we're talking about.
yeah, just purposefully ambiguous. Let's have some fun though, Chris. I mean, let's turn it up a notch. You ready? You want to play a game? You want to play a game with me? A little
I
overrated,
want to play a
underrated,
game. We'll
maybe?
find out if I'm ready.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, readiness is a spectrum. Overrated versus underrated. I love when people tell me that they don't feel ready for something. Like, yeah, well, it's like when you have kids, you're never ready, and then it happens, and now you're ready,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you become ready. So just
Yeah.
just hop in the pool. That's how you learn to swim,
That is certainly a spectrum,
or
right?
you die. All right, overrated versus underrated. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I'm gonna pick my top 5 favorite. How are we feeling? Overrated, underrated airport lounges.
I think they're underrated. I love
You're
a good
so
airport
bougie.
lounge.
Okay, tell me
Yeah.
about it.
Hey, and it
My,
doesn't even need to be bougie. I just came back from Singapore. I did not have the first class experience. I did not get the nice champagne suite. I
mhm.
got some of the more budget, free priority pass access. And let's just say, wasn't eating the food. Just it was nice to have free Wi-Fi, and it was nice to
Nice
sit there
cushy
and
chair. Put your feet up a little bit, maybe. Who knows?
not really like
Not really.
the nice maybe juice that's been out a little too long. I'm happy with it though. At least it's quiet, and at least it's somewhere to get free Wi-Fi. I'm a big Amex Lounge guy. I love the
Okay.
Centurion
The
Lounge. If
Centurion.
I can get
How
in
does
there,
the Centurion Lounge compare to like say? an American Airlines or Admirals Club or like a what are they medallion for Delta? Like, how does it compare?
You travel more than I do, so I think you might have a better answer than I do
I've
to
never
that.
been in Centurion Lounge.
I think
I've
they're
never
great.
had an Amex before. I don't think.
I think they're great. I'm a big fan. I'm going to be a spokesperson for Amex right now. I think that the fees for the Amex are worth it if you travel and you need access to a Centurion Lounge. The food is good. It's quiet. There's newspapers and magazines if that's what you're into. The Wi-Fi is great. Free drinks. I don't know about you, but if I've got a 10 o'clock flight and I just put the kids to bed and headed to LAX, that free beer,
Yeah,
it's priceless. That free glass of red wine, it's probably not a glass of red wine I'd pay for, but it's free. I love it.
it'll
It
do.
it makes that travel so much better.
Golly, I might just go to DFW tonight just to have
There.
one.
Well, it's funny because like some of these airport lounges, they're good and some are not so great. DFW's got some great lounges, as you know. LAX, they're getting better. And I already talked about Changi in Singapore. There's the good lounges and then there's the fine lounges.
Yeah, yeah, and even within airports, right? Like so I'm an American Airlines Admiral Club guy,
Yeah,
right? And there's probably four of them at DFW, but there's one that's the best. There's another that's a second, and then there's like a distant fourth too. It's just like
yeah,
they're in name only.
100%.
Some
Well,
janitor vacated it. They put some peanuts in it, and they said, "Here you go."
right? I'm traveling to an event in San Francisco next week and I'm flying out of Burbank. So for me, Burbank is the hey, I'm not flying out of LAX, it's Burbank. That's a win in and of itself.
Yeah,
But my lounge is basically a Guy Fieri restaurant.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Diners, drive-ins, and dive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. A $25 cheeseburger.
Airport lounge is underrated. I'm with you on this. I just sprung for airport lounge access for me and my team members, actually, because I'm such a
Nice.
nice guy.
There you go. Nice job, big boss.
Shout out to all my lucky associates out there. No, I'm actually getting. My problem in life with the luxuries though is that I get used to them and then I can't go back.
Yeah.
And there will be a day that I'll be sorely disappointed. I'll be like, I can't do this anymore.
You'll be the person who's like, I remember a day when I could get a
Hey,
nice
my day,
drink.
I get free peanuts
Yeah,
in
exactly.
a newspaper
Right.
in Terminal D.
Exactly.
Oh
Exactly.
my God. All right, sounds good. We're on the same page there. 1 point for Chris. All right, let's see here. One size fits all policies. Sorry, our producer's off. Can't write.
No, you're good. I kind of already talked about this. Not a fan. No two reloads are one size fits all. You've got to have some
But
flexibility.
what about fairness, Chris?
Life's not fair. No,
It's not
I
fair.
think right at the end of the day, you create the programs intentionally. So there is a level of fairness in the aggregate, but there's flexibility that allows for individual nuance to come into play. And I really think that that's a bit of an art more than a science, but I think a lot of companies are getting it right. So I'm going to say overrated.
Yeah, I agree with you about the fairness thing, right? I mean, everyone didn't get paid the same amount of money.
Yeah.
It's like, why is your relocation program the same? I mean, I think that there was a time and place, and the pendulum's swinging kind of the other way now. There's more flexibility, core flex, things like that come into play. But yeah, I think one size fits all policies is probably a bit overrated. So, all right, two points for Chris.
Nice.
All right, he knows
I
what
guess
he's
I
doing.
was ready.
All right. See, it's just like having a kid. Massive headquarters. How about a massive headquarters? Like a big fancy massive headquarters?
I don't. I'm not a fan. I think at the end of the day, hey, look, it's cool. It's a huge cost to the business. And do you really think there's that ROI for your employees? Do they really care? Don't get me wrong. I'll speak about the trade desk. We have many different offices, and all of our offices are lovely. We have a workplace services team that does a phenomenal job. Kudos to that team. I have not been to a trade desk office that I haven't just been blown away at how beautiful it is. They are not gigantic. They are reasonably sized, and they're intimate enough that the teams can actually get conference rooms for the most part and actually meet with one another. I've been at companies and I've been visiting companies that I don't work at where I'm just like, this is overwhelming. How do you,
It's
what's the
too
line like
much.
at lunch? How do
Yeah.
you find a meeting? I've talked to companies. I've never worked at these companies where people are consistently 10 to 15 minutes late because they can't get from one location to the other location for the next meeting. And that's not just a one-off. That's a a systemic problem with their organization.
Well, and
Yep.
especially coming out of COVID, where we're booking meetings like 30-minute boom, 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 boom. There was a movement to kind of cap them at 10 minutes early, 5 minutes early for
Yeah.
bio breaks, whatever. But
55-minute meeting, 5-minute transition.
we forgot about that part. That was like there was a year and a half we did that. We stopped, and now you're right. Now we got everything just back to back to back, and it's like you're in high school. You don't got enough time to go to your locker or get your bag, and then
I know.
hightail it to the science building over there or whatever, right?
Right. So I'm gonna say overrated, and I'll also say I love it when I see somebody join a new company that still tries to implement the 25-5, the 55-5, where they're like, "Hey, I'm scheduling this meeting. I'm scheduling it for 25 minutes. That you get 5 minutes back." And I'm like, "That's very nice. I can tell you right now, we're gonna use the full 30 minutes."
We're gonna take the full 30.
Yeah, you're gonna be late to your next meeting, and yeah, we're just gonna. That's just gonna be your day. You're just gonna be late to your meetings for the rest of the day.
Let's see here. Let's see here. We got two more for you. Overrated, underrated, data integrity.
Underrated. I think everything we talked about, data integrity is huge. It's the building block for everything that we're talking about, agentic, generative AI. If you don't have strong data, if you don't have data integrity, at the end of the day, those options, those tools that we discussed, they're simply not on the table. They're not available to you because the outputs are going to be unusable.
Yeah, data integrity is just. I think we assume it, and then I remember one time I went through a class on it, and then once your eyes are open to all the forms of whatever the opposite of integrity is, you're like, oh crap, there's a lot of things that can go wrong here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting. All right, overrated, underrated. Got people that are saying I love airport lounges. Yeah, Daisy can do some damage in an airport lounge.
Daisy, I agree. Well, that's the nice thing about airport lounges. Once you're in, they should be free. So, enjoy that red wine.
Pretty much, and unless you like the top shelf whiskey, pretty much. I'll tell you what, Daisy can also do some damage at a TGI Friday. So it's better to have her in the confines of the all you can eat drink, area than yeah.
I
Anyway,
love a TGI Fridays. I would say I'm more of a Chili's man myself. So,
I respect it. I
yeah.
respect it. As a Texan, I respect it. Last one up, overrated, underrated. Comedy clubs.
Yeah, underrated. I love a good comedy club. Ben, you and I met in person for the first time at a comedy club. If I don't have the kids for a night and I'm thinking of a date night idea, comedy club every time.
Comedy club, top 5 best date night spot. What do you think about going to a comedy club solo though?
I think if you do it, all the power to you. Like, you're my kind of person. Not for me. I think I want to go with at least one other person, preferably my wife, or a group of 10 relocation mobility professionals rolling up in Hollywood to the Comedy Store.
That was fun. And then they took our phones. I was like, what are we getting into right now?
I know. I was like,
they put our phones in these weird bags. I've never been into anything. Is that a thing out in LA? I've not been into.
No, I'm actually surprised they get away with that. I think LA, it's considered assault if somebody takes your phone. Yeah, I was worried. I was like, you know what? It's bedtime for the kids. My wife's putting them down. I want to be a part of that. So I stepped out a few times just to check my phone and make sure the kids were good and the wife was good.
Yeah, that was wild, but it was so interesting because you also realize how like I need this, and even if it's in my pocket, I need to like know that I have access to it. The fact that you put it in a bag that now locks with like a magnet, like that they used to have those like Abercrombie and Fitch like sensors on, like when you would like try to, so you wouldn't steal T-shirts and stuff. Like they put that on, and now you're like, I have it, but I don't have it, and now it's vibrating, and I don't know why it's vibrating. I can't.
Right.
It was.
What was good was it was light blocking, so I didn't get to see the light going off every time I got a text or notification. But yeah, that was weird. And then last week, to one up it, I was in Singapore. I did not pay for data. I did not pay for anything. I was truly untethered. And it was a unique experience. I only had my phone when I was at the office or at the convention center. So I was walking around the streets of Singapore
Were colors brighter and food tastes sweeter? I mean, like, what was it like to be
The
untethered like
rain was
that?
magic. It was amazing. It was talk about just being untethered, uninhibited. It was incredible. The smells, the
Just a
people.
lightness about you, I'm sure,
Yeah.
an airiness.
Well, and of course, like me, I'm just watching all these people crossing crosswalks, almost getting hit by cars on their phones, and I'm like, amateur hour.
Yeah, so you're
Yeah.
just like, do you become like a phone snob after a few days, and then you come back, you're back on the phone, cracking
Yeah, my
them?
wife
Yeah,
even pointed it out. She was like, "You just got back from Singapore. You were not available on your phone, and now all of a sudden you're on your phone all the time." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, you're
yeah.
right. Good call."
Which also means she automatically gets like, manicure, pedicure, girls' night out, book like 5 days in a row, whatever she wants to do.
Yeah, spa days.
There you go. Comedy club's definitely underrated. Let me ask you this though: comedy club or movie, which would you be more likely to go to by yourself?
Movie. I'm an only child, so I grew up going to movies all the time.
Me
Or I was
too.
like, "Hey, I just really want to see this movie when it comes out. I don't care if anybody goes with me." Usually, I'd find a way to get a crew to come with me, but if that was me going by myself, that's fine. I'm not talking to anybody at the movie anyways, so I'll just sit there, have a Diet Coke and popcorn, and I'll be living my best life.
I would definitely. I've had situations. I remember once I was in Chicago. We wrapped up our, a meeting or whatever, and like a dinner, but it was like an early dinner because the guy had like kids and he was gonna go back, whatever. So I couldn't like get him to stay and hang out with me and everything. And I was like, I don't want to just go sit in a hotel by myself, like just sit on the bed and like do what, or or like am I gonna sit at a bar and just like crush, 5 Jack and Cokes and then go sit in a hotel by myself? So I was like, let me go to the movies. And I went to the movies. I saw that Ray Kroc Founder movie with Michael Keaton in
Nice, yeah,
Chicago, which was kind of cool because I'm like, oh, I'm here.
yeah.
And, I had a little bit of a moment. I kind of enjoyed it. And then, you know what? My wife goes out of town for like 3 weeks during the summertime. And I call it Summer of Ben.
Yeah.
And then I just go see like all the action movies or whatever that wouldn't be able to go see. So,
Right, because she's not gonna watch them, and once
no.
the kids are asleep, you wanna watch action movies with the bass up. You wanna
Yeah.
feel the room tremble,
Yes.
and, yeah, he
And
can't do
not
that.
turn down the curse words, like have to like, I want to,
Right. Yeah, you
yeah.
wanna be a good dad. You don't wanna
Yeah.
scar your kids, right?
I'm like
Uh,
the guy. I'm like the transfer you said that has two faces. I got the dad face and then the other face. I got
let loose, yeah.
yeah.
I love it.
So this is awesome, Chris. I could talk to you forever. Have such a blast. I'm so glad we got to meet in that fateful evening at the Comedy Store in West Hollywood.
Yeah,
It's really cool, and I hope it's the first of many many conversations like this.
absolutely, Ben. Thanks for having me on, thanks for the good chat, and absolutely, let's stay close.
Yeah, and take care, everybody out there. Thanks for being here, and we're going to see you tomorrow. I think we have Dave Marin on tomorrow from New Compass, so that's going to be a really good one. And appreciate y'all for being a part of it. Let us know how we did. Take care, everybody. See